right, here we go. So we are going to work on using the quadratic formula, quadratic equation, to solve equations that are in standard form. We need to be able to recognize that this is standard form and that this is obviously in factored form. And if we wanted to find the zeros of our factored form, we know that the first zero is -3, and the other zero is 2. Sorry, not 2, is +1, because if we plug in -3 here, this becomes 0. If we plug in 1, that becomes 0. And that's the beauty of of factored form. It's really easy to find the zeros. However, when it's not in factored form, it can be sometimes tricky. So I'm going to do a couple quick things here just so that we can see this fully done out. If we want to put g of x into standard form, we FOIL. So we need to multiply it all out. We would say g of x equals x squared. And then x times -1 is -1x plus 3x is plus 2x minus 3. -3 times -1. So that should be fairly easy that we can FOIL it. Next, our job is to recognize A, B, and C. So I'm going to try to point these out. A is the coefficient, just the coefficient of the squared term. So it's a 1 because it's not written there, it is a 1. We need to know that. B is the coefficient of the linear term. In this case, it is the number 2. And then C is the constant term. In this case, it is -3. So for a lot of us, it is going to be useful to go A equals 1, B equals 2, and C equals -3. It's just an organizational thing. Now we're going to use this monstrosity. You need to be able to, well, first of all, we need to go, hey, what do we want to know about G? And what I'd like to know is what are the zeros? So I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to set that equal to 0. What are my zeros? That's what this is saying. And now I just have to plug and chug, meaning plug in the values, use my calculator or my brain well, and remember PEMDAS and do it all. So I know that x equals the opposite of b, right? This is the opposite of b, so it's going to be -2 plus or minus, because it's two answers often, plus or minus radical. And I don't like to simplify first. I want to do all my plugging in and then my simplification. So b squared, I'm going to write down 2 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is -3. 1 times -3. Notice I'm not doing any simplification. I'm just going to write them out over 2 times a. So that's 2 times 1. I know that 2 times 1 is 2, and I don't need to write that 1 there, but it's nice to know I've put every piece in its place. Okay. Now I need to simplify. I need to square this because it's inside the square root, and I need to multiply that out. So I'm going to have x equals -2 plus or minus 2 squared is 4 minus 4 times 1 times -3 is positive 12 plus 12 over 2. I don't need the a anymore. I'm starting to simplify. My square root symbol is maybe a little too big. Okay. Now I need to find the solutions. So I know that this is going to be 16. This turns into 16, right? And I know the square root of 16 is 4. So I can say this is -2 plus or minus 4 over 2. And this is two different answers. I'm going to have -2 minus or plus 4 over 2, and I'm going to have -2 minus 4 over 2. I can evaluate both of these separately. -2 plus 4 over 2 is -2 plus 4 is 2. Divided by 2 is 1. So this answer here is 1. And -2 minus 4 is -6. Divided by 2 is -3. These are my two answers, which are exactly what I had there. So thank goodness. It all works out. All right. I'm going to do this again with something a little trickier. So now we have f of x and it equals this other equation. I need to find the zeros again. I need to be able to recognize A, B, and C. A, B, and C. That's my job. A equals 3, B is 5, C is 2. I hope that that feels pretty easy, right? It's the coefficients. Notice there's no x's. If I have x's in there, I've made a mistake. Now I'm going to use my quadratic equation. I start out with x equals. And that's the only x I'm going to write here. Everything else is going to be numbers. The opposite of b, negative 5 plus or minus radical b squared, which is 5 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. All right? The opposite of b, plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So I just got to write it all out. Now I just need to simplify it again. X equals the opposite of b, plus or minus the radical. 5 squared is 25. 4 times 3 times 2 is 24. So this is minus 24 all over 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to do this one more step. 25 minus 24 is 1. I know the square root of 1 is 1. So I end up with x equals negative 5 plus or minus 1 over 6. And remember that's two different answers. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4 over 6, which is negative 2/3. And negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6 over 6, which is negative 1. I want to point out one more thing. We can actually backtrack back to our factored form from here. I know that these are my zeros. So I can also say this is my first 0 and this is my second 0. And if I wanted to, I know that this equation, this is A, is going to be, well, I'm going to rewrite it so we can see it. A, x minus z1, x minus z2. So if I wanted to, this equation is the same as going, well, A is 3, x minus z1 is negative 2/3. So that's a negative 2/3, and z2 is negative 1, x minus negative 1. I know that two negative signs make a positive, so if I wanted to, I could simplify both of these to a positive, but this factored form, 3 times x plus 2/3, x plus 1, if I FOILed it, I'd get that, which is pretty cool. We're going to do one more example. We have this equation here. This one's a little weird because there's no b. That's the weird part. And so if there's no b, what is the value of b? Well, a is 3 again. B, because there is no b, b is 0. And c is negative 17. Okay, now it's our job to plug in. So we use the quadratic equation. X equals, because I want to know the zeros. The opposite of b, negative 0 plus or minus radical b squared, 0 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 17, all over 2 times a, a, which is 3. Whoops, I almost scooped that up. Okay. Now I can start simplifying and solving this. X equals, well, negative 0 is 0, so basically I just have plus or minus 0. I got to do negative 3 times negative 17. I know that that's 34. Whoops, I should have picked better numbers. 7 times 17 is 49, carry the 4, 119. I apologize if that is incorrect. I apologize. But anyway, over 6. This should be, well, that is incorrect. That's totally incorrect. I am so sorry. This is plus or minus the square root of 17 times 4, 17 times 12. Oh my goodness. 34, 170, 204. Square root of 204 over 2. 6, 2 times 3. Oh my goodness, I'm making all sorts of mistakes. I can simplify the square root of 204, and you know how to do that from another video. But there are my 2 zeros, and it is okay that they are irrational. I'm going to pause there. Thank you. Good luck.